Call the meeting to order. If everyone would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Any public to be heard? Okay, next up is me, the good news. All right, from the high school, from Mr. Kessler. Congratulations to all of our BHS students for a wonderful performance of Les Miserables. Our students are so talented. Special thanks to Karen Wood as the show director and Jane Haggett for directing the orchestra. From the middle school, Jessica Franks, the BMS math team finished strong this year. Gretchen Weischer was the top scorer in the region for the second year in a row. Great job, Gretchen. From John Kennedy, Mr. Sutton, Erica and Kristen Knapp put in a ton of effort and led our district in raising almost $10,000 to donate to the. Thank you both for your leadership and all the behind-the-scenes planning for our BCSD Polar Spray event. From Jackson Primary and Robert Morris. Deborah Tourville, I want to thank our two building mechanics for all the support you have given me since I've been at RM. Never complain and always willing to help out. AJ and Andy, you are very much appreciated. Keep up the great work. From the district office, Julia Rogers. The administration would like to recognize Jim Jacobs for all he has done since coming out of retirement to help us. Since returning to help us with our facilities, he has been very responsive to our buildings and grounds needs, and it shows. He is approachable and dependable while getting the job done. A wonderful leader, he coaches his staff on ways to improve and support them daily when they offer ideas. We're truly lucky that Mr. Jacobs' passion is the betterment of the Batavia City School District. As Mr. Sutton put it, he has had a tremendously positive impact on the state of John Kennedy. Mr. Jacobs has gotten things done efficiently, and our school is looking as good as it has in years. He is a true asset to our team and our district. Thank you for coming in and giving us your all. And there's a lot more good news, so please take time and read it online. Up next, we have presentations, and that would be Mr. Kessler. You're up.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I have my team. All right, so you can see some of our favorite pictures, part of our school community here. All right. As you can see, we kind of organized the presentation, starting by looking at our mission and vision statement, everything focused around there, and then the 4 subcategories that we're focusing on this year, and that would be from our strategic plan. And so the way that we organize the presentation is we're going to do a chunk of slides in each of the 4 areas of the strategic plan. And so we'll talk about our school environment, a safe and orderly school environment, our collaborative culture goals, clear and accessible curriculum, and effective teaching in every classroom. All right, so starting with Area 1, a safe and orderly environment. We wanted to share with you a little bit about what we're doing in terms of student attendance. We're going to talk a little bit about Vape University, just to give you a little bit of information on that. We won't spend a lot of time, but we're making sure that we work on efficient and orderly bathroom procedures. I'm sure why it's doing that to me. All right. Mrs. Corzelis is going to talk a little bit about our social emotional learning plan, and we'll move on from there. All right, so moving to Mr. Hussein, he's going to talk about a few things that we're doing and working on our student attendance.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm Omar Hussein. I'm one of the assistant principals. The 2 things that I'm going to talk about to start with are, like Mr. Kessler just shared, our attendance plan at Batavia High School this year. And the next thing that I'm going to talk about is our vape university, which we're partnering with our district social workers to run. So the big piece is that, especially as a result of the pandemic, attendance has grown as just like even more importance, even more of an area of concern for districts across the country. And there were a lot of different things that we tried to do as students came back to us, whether it was in a hybrid capacity or remote capacity or eventually a full-time capacity, to demonstrate understanding and care and empathy, but then also to reintroduce the attendance standards that we've learned are important towards academic success. And that's what we brainstormed, towards as a counseling team and an assistant principal team this summer. And we put together, hopefully all of these links work, they should. So we put together like in my opinion, like a short and simple start to an attendance draft plan. So it's a 2-page document. The first kind of just go over is our goal, the system's approach as we foresee it, different attendance and tardy thresholds. That was something new for us this year, as last year we weren't really sending letters home for students who were hitting different tardy benchmarks. This year we started to do that just because we saw the parallel when it came to academic success and students being late to school or late to class on a regular basis. The second page here looks at the 3 tiers as we identified students. Tier 1, 2, 3. It's response to intervention kind of model. Where tier 1 are your students who are going to get like the exact same level of intervention as every other student. So that's 100% of students should receive the tier 1 protocols and supports. Tier 2 are your students who are maybe viewed based on the data as higher risk. And coming back to our attendance thresholds, so we look at students who are 0 to 9 days absent, then 10 to 19 days absent, and then 20 plus days absent. We look at those every 5 weeks. We send the letters home. We send robocalls home on a regular basis. But truly what we're trying to do is increase the level that we communicate with families when it comes to their students' attendance. So when you get to tier 2 and tier 3, in terms of increasing the level of communication, that's where we learn that the robocalls those are going to everybody, so that's your tier 1. The letters, to some extent, are also going to everybody who meets those thresholds. But now, what are we doing to increase human contact? So how are we ensuring that teachers are reaching out to families of students who are deemed chronically absent every 5 weeks? How are we then ensuring that the counselors are doing the exact same thing every 5 weeks? And how are we communicating who's called and when those calls have been made? So that's been like a major shift for us this year. We're starting to use the global notes feature in School Tool. So for example, if Mrs. Corzelius calls home for a student, and then 3 weeks later, I'm thinking to myself, did somebody call home for the student yet? Because I haven't seen them. Before I pick up the phone and make that call, I'm going to go look at the data in global notes, and hopefully I'll see Jess Corzelius called, and this was the result. Either went to voicemail or made contact, and it just gives us kind of like a running log in terms of our attendance. As I mentioned, we are, I'm going to come back to this slide real quick because there's just one more piece that I'd like to show. But this was kind of like the at-a-glance piece right here, the fact that we do the daily attendance, and I know I just went over most of it when I was showing you those 2 pages. But the other piece that we added this year is this extracurricular and athletic attendance reports. So Sue Given, I helped her build these reports for each season, and then it was awesome. It was like gradual release. Like I built it for her in the fall, and then in the winter she wanted to know how to do it. And then in the spring, I didn't even need to help her. She figured out exactly what we needed to do. But now when you look up a student in School Tool, you're going to actually be able to see what sport that they participate in or what extracurricular club that they participate in. And then we run a report that she sends to the coaches that are just, instead of sending like 9 through 12 attendance, they're just getting the students who participate in their sport or in a spring sport. And it's just helping coaches and helping the athletic department streamline their attendance protocol and process. Our goal is to do the exact same thing for our extracurricular clubs. So Mr. Kessler mentioned like Les Mis. So same deal. We think that like, students who are participating in drama club, chess club, whatever, math team, All of our other clubs and extracurricular activities should be held to the same attendance is important standard. Next steps, we're going to be working with Chris Merle and Lindsay Daly, some of our other social workers. We actually have a meeting on this coming Thursday. And this is like a long document. It's called the Attendance Playbook, and we've reviewed it already. It's a 70-page document that we're not going to review together right now, but our plan is to look at what were the highlights that we feel like can be actionable at Batavia High School starting the fall of 23. I'm going to move forward now to another piece. Like Mr. Kessler said, this is part of our safe and orderly environment. So Vape University. We've had a number of incidents over the past year and a half, and the two of us have been assistant principals in the high school, where we've had referrals that are, vaping or some sort of substance use related. And so often, as we see with a lot of disciplinary issues, just removing the student without some sort of restorative and educational piece hadn't seemed to be producing the desired outcome. So again, in partnering with our social workers, specifically Chris Merle, we've developed a program called Vape University, where she turnkey trained teachers who now run kind of like mini counseling / substance awareness groups every Thursday after school with students who end up in the disciplinary system for vape-related offenses. We have at least 4 teachers who are part of the program. The groups vary in size depending on how many students we have, and like I said, receiving referrals that week. But it's really been beneficial. The students have to submit a survey. They have to complete a survey as part of it. This is the vaping survey. And essentially what the survey tries to ensure is that it wasn't just one of these things where you were caught with a vape, you were consequenced in this way, and now you're returned back to school without some sort of educational component. And so far we haven't had, this is a new program, but we haven't had any repeats. We haven't had students who have been suspended, attended Vape University, and then been resuspended for the same thing. So the early returns have been promising. All right, I'm going to, I believe,
Shift over to Mrs. Cortez, and she's going to talk a little bit about our social emotional learning.
All right. So within our social emotional learning plan, we're really excited about our circles, our wellness circles. So each month, our social emotional learning team, we put together scripts for teachers and students to participate in circles around just different skills and strategies for their overall well-being. And this is our second year of doing them, and so just the growth from year 1 to year 2 has shown us a lot of feedback, in that they're being received well. The teachers are giving a lot of feedback and how they want to join in and help with the process. Something I'm really excited about is that we're starting to talk about how can we get the students involved in building those circles. So one thing that we're working on this summer is inviting them to our workshop this summer so that they can come and help with the different topics that we touch on, whether it be around respect, self-discipline, our emotional well-being, how do we handle our emotions, and then, so they're full of lots of ideas themselves. So right now we're working on getting them involved into the process. In addition to our monthly circles, we have mental health Mondays. So we always make sure every Monday that we take time in the day, about 15 minutes at the end of, sometimes it could be any part of the day, whether it's in the beginning, the middle, or the end, where we kind of stop and just take care of ourselves for that moment. So teachers could have their own little SEL lesson during that time, or the kids can kind of like just take a breather, take a walk, whatever it is that they need during that time. And something we're really excited about, and the kids are really excited about, is our new sensory lunchroom. We have a lot of students that are battling with anxiety and learning new strategies on how to cope with that to get through that day. And one of the biggest things that kind of triggers is our large cafeteria setting. So with the help of Chris Merle and Lindsay Daly, who runs our MBK program, they created a space to allow our students to just kind of have a separate space, smaller setting, low key. You can see a couple of our students enjoying that space there. It's quiet. it's just, it's invite only, so it's not like, you know, it's gonna take over by other students, and so far, it's been very well received there. As you can see in the next slide, each of our circles, so one thing that we changed in our monthly circles from last year to this year was making sure that we were really building those communities in one class with one set of students and facilitators, whereas last year, it kind of changed depending on the day, whether there was A or B day. So this year, we really wanted to create that sense of community within that circle. And so each circle comes up with their own agreements. These are just some of them that just to kind of kickstart, but really the teachers and the students have kind of taken ownership on what they want for their agreements and what works for them. And each circle comes with like a script and some sort of presentation to help guide that circle and facilitate those questions. So this is just an example of one of the rounds. Typically circles have 3 rounds, and usually in round 1 there's some kind of engagement piece, whether it be a video or a quote that's read to pull in and introduce that topic of the month. So that's just an example for you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so moving on to area number 2. All right, is our collaborative culture. So we're going to talk a little bit about our shared decision-making process, a new club that we have this year called Umoja, My Brother's Keeper, and some department initiatives that we have going on there. So if you click to the next slide here, just in terms of the school culture, obviously like our student highlights is a big deal for us. As Mr. Hussein talked about attendance, when we look at the students that have missed the most days, one of the biggest common factors is those students are not involved in a sport, club, or activity. And so really having a push and an emphasis on finding what that hook is for students to be in school is really important. You know, so hopefully all of you had a chance to see Les Mis. It was just fantastic. Great job by our students with that. We had just incredible sports seasons, and we're looking forward to the snow melting so that we can start our spring seasons and such. And you know, a big highlight for us every year is our Make a Difference Day that we did in October in the fall, and all of our seniors participate in that. And I can't tell you how many like emails, phone calls, and such we get from the community saying how wonderful our students did on those. So those are some of our student highlights. All right, moving on to shared decision making. You've heard about the shared decision making teams at all of the schools. And so we've been working this year on a similar theme as the other schools in increasing the amount of reading and writing that's happening in our classrooms. And so really at the high school level, what we wanted that to look like is that students are actually engaged in reading, you know, texts about the subject area that they're learning. One of the things that we noticed with the pandemic is we pushed out a lot of video type resources to help communicate. And you know, there's an upside to that, but there's also a downside to that, in that students were reading less actual text, writing less text. And so what we were seeing is we had students telling us like, oh, I don't read everything that's in that passage. I wait for the teacher to explain it to me, or I'll wait for the video to come up. But obviously that doesn't fully prepare you to get to a college level class where you know you have a textbook that you have to engage in. And so we really worked hard in increasing that amount of time right through all of our subject areas. So obviously in English and social studies you would see the most minutes of that. We've even asked our special areas to kick off a unit that they would do you know, in music or PE with an article, you know, about somebody in their area of field that the students are reading and responding to. And so that's been the crux of what our shared decision-making team has been doing in terms of that. All right, here's a picture of us prioritizing what we were going to work on at our meeting there. Okay. All right, so we've also been doing some work on our lesson plan design. And Mr. Hussein is going to share a little bit more about that.
Yes, you'll see an actual template of the Mike Schmoker lesson plan, but part of our leadership team over the summer, we read this book called Focus, and truly, as the name suggests or implies, the idea is to focus in on what are the essentials that we need our students to be able to do and to accomplish to be successful and lifelong learners. And it really does come down to, just practicing authentic literacy skills on a regular basis. That's part of what we're doing. But you'll see other aspects, shared and common curriculum, strong teaching in every single classroom. So kind of going with those initiatives, we really built on this idea of taking what teachers are already doing at Batavia High School and seeing the extent to which it's already in line with some of Mike Schmoker's ideas, and where it's not, making the adjustments and giving time to make the adjustments so that no matter who your student has as a 9th grade English teacher, for example, they're getting the same quality of instruction, and they're getting the same content level when it comes to their literary texts, and same time on task. So we really truly are trying to make it so that all of our students are receiving high-level instruction on a regular basis that's grade level. So part of what we started talking about with our teachers, and a lot of this is also just based on Madeline Hunter, who's a well-known, I know that I came out of the education program in 2012, and even then we were still talking about Madeline Hunter lesson plan designs, where there's some sort of a bell warmer or an anticipatory set, then there's the pre-lesson, then there's the lesson itself, what are the students doing, then there are these built-in checks for understanding to make sure that students along the way aren't just like, if you think of an athletic comparison, they're not just going through the motions, but they're actually practicing to fidelity the skills that you're sharing with them. And we've honed in on some of these skills throughout the course of this year. So Mr. Kessler already mentioned the increased focus on, again, reading and writing in classrooms across all content areas. And now we started talking to teachers about checks for understanding. To what extent are you stopping what you're doing in terms of teacher talk and surveying the crowd to see to what extent have they actually stayed with you? To what extent do some people need help? And how are you doing that? Are you just doing a thumbs up, thumbs down across all high school classes, or are you giving them different writing assignments? Are you using Google Forms at the end of every single class as kind of like an exit ticket or a ticket out the door to assess whether or not students were able to learn the material for the day based on the learning target? You're going to see a little bit more about common curriculum as we look at our curriculum map, our year-at-a-glance map. I'm going to talk about that in a couple slides. And truly what this has been as opposed to a reinventing the wheel process with our faculty and with students, it's been, let's look at the wheels that we currently have. And let's see who's got components throughout the course of this building for the perfect VHS wheel across each content area. And presenting that to our teachers has been, in my opinion at least, it's been far less daunting. It's been accepted generally a lot easier than had we said, here's something brand new to try. And students are able to benefit from the results tomorrow. Today definitely, but tomorrow as well, because some of these things are already into action. I don't know what the next slide is, but like I said, I'll come back to it.
It's Moda.
I think it's Umoja. So Umoja is a group that we're really proud of, and it was really created from some of our students who wanted to just celebrate the diversity in our community and to bring the voice of our different cultures and just allow people just to be comfortable in their own skin. So they're really excited too, as you can see the group. We've been working on just different projects, and we partner with our My Brother's Keeper organization. And so one thing we're excited about with that is what we did around Black History Month this month. They had shared in our previous meetings that, as a high school student, they feel like they were kind of learning and talking about some of the same people when it comes to studying Black history. So in partnering with our MBA kids, they utilized the announcements and just did some research about some new people to celebrate and honor. And so through those quotes, and they challenged their teachers to do the same, to research somebody new, whether it be in their content or somebody that motivates them, and to do a lesson on that. And again, I'll share more on that as well as we move to the next slides. But something that the students are really proud of, and actually we're working on a field trip. So MBK in Umoja is going to be going to RIT. We're going to be doing a campus tour and meeting with their STEP team. And some of our kiddos, when their parents came here, we used to have a STEP team back in the day. So they're excited to go and do some research, tour the campus, show them what they have, and possibly bring that back here and recreate something here. Yeah, so Umoja.
I am excited about the possibility of starting a STEP team, but I can assure you that I will not be ready.
I just want to, I'm sorry, Mr. Kessler. Are we having, you want to come to the April board meeting?
Yes, and we
Can you
are
mention
going
that?
to be,
Sorry.
yes, in the
Sorry.
April board meeting. We have like 5 students who are going to come and present for you what they're working on and what they're looking forward to moving forward. So yes, we will be back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on to area 3, we're just going to touch upon a few things because some of the areas overlap a little bit with each other. But Mr. Hussein's going to just share a couple of examples of our year at a glance and some of the benchmarks, what a benchmark is and what we're working on with that.
So this was a little bit of work that we started in the summer with our social studies and English departments, where we asked them to sit together for a couple days, and the work ended up taking more days than that. But and build like a warehouse for the benchmark or the quarterly assessments that they give to students throughout 9th through 12th grade, and have a space where students, down the road, the goal is to make this accessible. Right now, it's just accessible to us as a BHS team. But I can go in and see like, all right, what are my U.S. history students going to be doing in terms of their benchmarks for the for all 4 quarters? What is the rubric that they're going to be scored against? What are some exemplar texts, or what are some anchor papers? What are some other student samples from previous times that these assessments have been given? And put it all together in a nice way so that the people who are currently here can access it and make sure that they're using this like team approach towards teaching. But then also, as we bring on new faculty, they're going to already have something to hit the ground running with. I think that's trademarked by Alfred State. So I hit the ground running with it. The year at a glance, like Mr. Kessler said, we're going to move a little quickly here, but the year at a glance. So this is a document that all the buildings are looking at, all the departments are looking at, and there should be a link. But the goal here is to have a full year's worth of lessons, the topics, the text that students are going to be doing. Again, I'm going to use this word intentionally, warehoused in a common space that's accessible to all staff, so that again, like 9th grade teachers can see the extent to which the fidelity they're introducing and teaching the same content. But then if somebody new comes on, they don't have to worry about like, what am I coming up with? What am I going to teach students? It's instead, well, here are like, when we think about backwards design and teaching, where we want them to get and then how do we get them there? Here are the benchmarks that are all warehoused nicely. Here are the rubrics we're going to be using. And now here are the lessons that everybody else has been using to get them there. So like, when I was showing this at a department meeting a couple weeks ago, someone got like high-level anxiety because Natalie Shinaki has color-coded hers and like it's super organized. And not to say that everybody else hasn't done something super organized, but like, so she's an 11th grade English teacher. I just want to show like hers versus like, you know, Mrs. Corbelli's. And then the goal is going to be that the two of them have time to sit down and look, what are we each doing? Week 1, week 15, week 20, week 35, and does it match? How aligned is it? Because part of our goal this year, but definitely going into next year, is the common curricular approach and that same level of instruction. So I'm gonna get out of this one and turn it back over to Mr. Kessler.
All right, so if you look here, this is our graduation rate for last year. So you can see, if you look at 1, that's the goal, right? 100%. And so last year's rate, we had a 96% graduation rate. That includes our students that got either a Regents diploma, and then 1% of that includes our students with intellectual disabilities that completed their IEP. So we're really pleased with that. There's a lot of work that goes into that in terms of the social work type of aspect to that. when you're talking about students that maybe they're the first one from their family to graduate from high school. Maybe they have some challenges outside of school and coming up with plans for them. And so that continues to be a real goal of ours. We compare ourselves a little bit with small cities, and typically we're, within 3 to 5% higher than most small cities are in terms of that focus. All right, so you got a little bar graph in your packet, but these are our Regents results, and as you can see, it's kind of a mixed bag a little bit. Like if you look at the colors, it's representing the last 5 years. The dates that you see at the bottom is actually their cohort year on when they came in as a freshman. So when you see 2018, that student was a freshman in 2018, so that's why you see it that way. There's some areas that definitely improved, and then some areas that we do have a level of concern on. And so, especially our math results, as you see to the left side, our geometry results are definitely have been an area of focus. And so, as Mr. Hussein shared the work that he was doing with our ELA team, similar work needed to be done and is being done with our math teams in terms of aligning the curriculum, looking closely at our assessments, making sure that we have those benchmark assessments every quarter to see, have our students made progress, toward the Regents, or, are there some significant areas that we need to do some support reteaching with? And so, while we're pleased with some of the growth, I would say, the biggest crux I knew of my goals and our work was especially improvement of our math results moving forward. So that's been some of our goal for this year. Wanted to review for you. 4 years ago, we approved a change to our graduation honors. This is our first group that is being honored through we'll call it college-style, Latin-style honor system. And so they could hit that summa cum laude level, magna cum laude level, or cum laude level. You could see here how they hit that. Just about 2 weeks ago, we announced our summa cum laude students. 19 students met that benchmark, having a 95 or above average and taking rigorous coursework. So they had to have taken 3 advanced placement classes or 2 advanced placement classes and 2 college level classes to hit that. And so if you think in terms of that number, typically our top 10 in the past would have been about 16 or 17 students in that top 10. There were 19 kids that hit that summa cum laude level. The magna cum laude is, that next level down, still pretty rigorous coursework, but maybe not as many classes, and then they hit a 90 or above. So there's 13 students that met that benchmark. And then our cum laude level was 85 plus, and 19 students met that benchmark. And so at graduation, students will have cords this year, and the color of the cord will be represented by the level that they met. But we're really excited, not only for that summa cum laude level, but for that cum laude level. Within that, there's some students that they are the first one in their family that's planning on attending college. And so it's going to be nice to acknowledge that effort and that work that they did that way. I believe in your packet somewhere you have the 4 new course proposals for Batavia High School. I'm not going to get into each one of them in detail, but you can see that those 4 courses are Principles of Engineering course. That's for our students that have taken some of our introductory level technology courses and are interested in Principles of Engineering. We do have enough student interest that we are looking to run 1 section of that class next year. Also for our seniors, for the first half of the year they take English 12. The second half of the year they have electives that they can choose from. And so a couple of the new electives that would be 12th grade electives would be Fright Fiction and Diversity in Literature. So Fright Fiction would be reading texts like Dracula, Frankenstein, classic text, but, you know, have that interest level that's in there. And a diversity in literature course would have maybe some underrepresented types of literature in there that students could choose from. Looks like we have enough student interest to run freight fiction next year. And, you know, diversity in literature didn't have as much interest this year, but we want it on the books so that we can offer it to students to potentially run it the following year. And then in the social studies realm, a history through fiction course has been offered. And so that would be a good elective that some of our 11th and 12th graders could look to. Again, we polled student interest. That one probably wouldn't run this year, but we do think that it's worthy to have it as an offering for students to see if that could run in the future. All right, we're heading down the home stretch here, okay? So area 4 is just effective teaching in every classroom. It's interesting as we kind of design this, you know, curriculum and teaching kind of go hand in hand, so we've touched upon a lot of it. We did want to just share with you just what we did in February, kind of combining the areas that we've talked about today and making sure that we are representing all of our students and their interests, and also having that focus on literacy. And so Mrs. Corzius is going to just share an activity that we did with our staff in February.
Yeah, so kind of going with that, like combining all that we're working on with Smoker in our shared decision-making team, we, with the help of Umoja, kind of challenged our teachers to pick a different African-American figure and create a lesson that encompasses all of that check for understanding, the anticipatory set, that authentic literacy. This is just an example of the Smoker lesson plan that we adapted for this activity. And just clicking on an example to show you from one of our ELA teachers, just created a warehouse where we can house all of these. And what we're gonna do with these moving forward in our shared decision-making team is we're gonna pull all of them and take a closer look at where are we right now as a building in that authentic literacy, and what does that look like in our classroom. And what we'd like to do is create a kind of carousel learning activity so we can kind of look at that and also allow teachers to collaborate and learn some other ways that they might go about it, but also too, now here where we are, where can we grow from here? So this is something that we're really proud of. I think that's...
And then just lastly, just sharing that, just want to show my appreciation to Mrs. Corzulius and Mr. Hussein. We've really focused on utilizing our faculty meetings for teachers to have time to digest all of this. And so what she just shared on the February meeting, we spent some time together working on it, us giving some examples. We're trying to model in our meetings some of the strategies that we're asking teachers to do. And so this is just a couple of pictures of our staff working together on the initiatives that we have. So that concludes what we wanted to share with you, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask any questions if you have any.
Any questions, anybody?
I can give you guys some positive feedback. When you were talking about the Circle Up meetings, my daughter had just shared a video from when they were away at track, and watching the video, and it was her and a couple other track athletes, and they were doing like what made them smile today and what made them sad, and they literally were going around in a circle while they were waiting. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's what they were doing.
All right, we like that kind of feedback.
Fantastic.
Don't tell her I told
They
you.
transferred.
I'm sure she's watching this right now.
She is, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome. That's what it's about.
Thank you very much.
Nice job.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you guys.
Yep. I always want to just end by saying thank you so much to the Board of Education. You know, I've been here since a long time in the district. I'm trying to think back. I think 17 years. And I've always just appreciated that the board has been just very supportive of what we do in our schools, interested in what we're doing in our schools, and so I just want to say thank you for the important work that you do as well.
Thank you all for a great job.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Mr. Rosansky giving us the 2023-2024 budget update number 2.
All right. Good luck, Scott.
All right, well, thank you for attending the board budget workshop last week. Just we'll go over some summary information on where we are now, incorporating some of last week, and then the changes in this last week. So we started the budget at $59,398,520, and it's a rollover budget with everything in it, the wish list items, all our departments and such, which was an 8.386% increase over last year's budget, 22-23. Also included in that was we had 4 retirements, but they were in at 100%. We wanted to again show replacing, just keeping everything pretty status quo. It's important to note the CPI or inflation that we're working with is 8%, as defined by the state. And also the tax cap number is 8.42%. So these 8% numbers, they're big numbers, but they're pretty consistent, whether it's our expense increasing, inflation, or our tax cap number. We have, just so everyone is aware, the budget book, the hard copy that you have is now on our website in electronic format under the Business Office 23-24 preliminary budget. Anybody wants to go and download or review the budget detail. Since last week, there was some discussion, and we heard about trying to get the budget down to between 1% and 2% potentially in terms of a tax levy. There was, we're still early in the game where we can, adjust even further if that's the direction. We had 4 retirements, and if we replace all 4 positions, the savings from a more senior employee to a newer employee staff is $209,000. So that savings is shown in tonight's update budget. We also had 6 STA extra buses in the first draft of the budget to go back to pre-COVID levels, where Jackson buses were just servicing Jackson students, John Kennedy buses, John Kennedy students and such. All contingent on, are there drivers available, of course. We still struggle to find drivers, not we, but STA and our other contractor. So this is an area that was looked at as a possible reduction. So we took out 3 buses in what's presented tonight. Buses and monitors, each costs about $70-some thousand once you figure in the supervision of the monitors. So that still leaves us 3 buses in for next year. If they're able to find more drivers, we would probably take advantage of that because we have some delays with students getting home. We have some supervision issues with the overcrowding potentially on buses. So if we had more buses, that would help alleviate some of those concerns. So total adjustment as of tonight is to reduce the preliminary budget by $427,000 to $58,970,774. Almost $2 million increase, or 7.6%. On page 2, the revenue summary. We started off at $35,544,888, or an increase of 13%. The big item to note here is the state finally became current on foundation aid. Something that they've been lacking with since a court case in the early 2000s, and it took them 15+ years to become current. They were supposed to originally become current, I think it was 3 to 4 years, and the time they were starting to implement the foundation aid, that's when the recession hit in early 2010, 2011 timeframe. So it's been delayed over time. But finally there was a commitment by the state to become current, and so we see an unprecedented increase in state aid. So overall, the increase is $4,166,399, or 13.278% compared to last year. Next page is fund balance, and this is non-reserves. We started the year projection with $2.5 million. This would be, represents a surplus in this year's budget that's being applied to next year's budget. Difference of revenues and expenditures and the surpluses. It's important to note that this line in pre-COVID was a lot lower, like 1.5 million. But since the 2 budget years since with COVID, we always budgeted, we didn't know how that was going to turn out, and our budgets were inflated based on actual, what we know now, 2020's hindsight. But when we were putting together the budget, we wanted to make sure we had enough resources to do the programs that we had in place, not knowing how everything was going to shake down. And so now that things are starting to normalize, we're able to start reducing the surplus in the budget. So you see a slight decrease of 270,800, or 9.773% compared to a year ago. Fund balance reserves. This is really 2 line items in the budget. Unemployment insurance reserve. There's an expense for $50,000, and there's a corresponding revenue from the reserve of $50,000. And then New York State employees retirement is $986,000, the balance of that. And so they offset each other. So our expense for employees retirement system, employer contribution, and unemployment insurance is covered by reserves. On the last page, the tax levy. We started the preliminary tax at $20,316,737, or 3.189% increase over last year. Again, the tax cap was 8.42%, so we were already met the threshold of being under the tax cap. When we take out the net expenditures from the 2 adjustments earlier for the 4 teaching positions, replacements at lower cost, and also the 3 buses, we're down to $19,888,991, or an increase of $200,093, or just a tad over 1%, 1.016%. It's important to note, as I mentioned, we're below the tax cap, but we're below by $1,457,551 as we stand tonight. Quick summary of the initial preliminary budget, and then adjustments made since last Monday. Be happy to answer any questions, or we will need some direction as to the next steps.
Any questions?
No, I already went to my second budget this afternoon, so I'm good. We answered them all.
So going back to the buses, Scott, why did we go from 6 down to 3? Why are we still keeping the 3 extra ones?
We're keeping them in case they are able to find drivers and monitors. So they have hired people during the year, but then they end up losing them. So there's that potential. We have overcrowding. If they can find drivers and retain them, then we would take them to help alleviate some of those problems.
That we're currently having this year?
Correct.
So we currently have 3 buses right now?
3 extra in the budget.
Are we overcrowded to the point where we would need all 3 of those?
Definitely 2. It just all depends on the need.
And that's if we can have drivers.
If they're able to have drivers.
And we can also have up to 3 buses too. I mean, so we can have 1 bus. We can have, we don't have to have 3. But I mean, if the budget stays as is, we can have up to 3.
Right.
If we can find 3, if we can make do with 2, and not have overcrowding, we can look at two too. But I
If we
mean,
can find the drivers.
right, and if you approve the budget, you know, here tonight, we could have, this would allow us to have up to 3.
Right.
I'm okay taking out the bus if that's big. So I'm okay taking out the bus. I'm thinking we can take out one of these. I would still say something drivers. Because that's a good shot. Drivers.
So you only want 2 buses added into the budget?
Me?
If that's
No,
what we
no.
needed with people, I
Jen,
mean,
Jen.
in theory, if right now we're overcrowded by 2 buses, we don't have the drivers. So, yes, in a perfect world, yeah, I'd love 3 buses, but we don't have the drivers, so what's the point? And in theory, we're gonna eat that money if we don't have the drivers.
well, it's just
We're
gonna
gonna
be in the
have, yeah,
budget.
we're
They
gonna
would
have
go
3,
in the
but well.
surplus.
Yeah,
Right.
There would be
We're
a
still,
surplus.
we're still gonna have 3 buses sitting there for no reason. Yes, we'll get the money in the surplus, but it just, I don't know,
You said that's about 75,000 a bus?
So we, yeah,
About 70-some thousand.
right.
How many buses do we already use right now? We have 6 buses right now that we're using?
No, the total that we're using, we have 15, and I think 15 and a half. There's one that's a half run, so what's in the budget now is 6 extra, 21 buses.
This would also, you know, if I'm wrong, Scott, say so, but this would also reduce, if we did all 3, this would reduce the amount of time kids are on the bus as well. So keep that in mind too.
So that means when I'm going to work at 6:30 in the morning, I'm not going to see kids getting picked up at 6:30 in the morning?
Correct.
Possibly, yeah.
Or they're going to be on the bus for an hour almost?
Yeah. So I mean, go ahead.
But also budgeting this, as we touched on in the workshop, our contract is coming up to be renewed next year with them, so if it does go up, having that 3rd bus could potentially cover a possible increase too, right?
It would ease the burden.
It would ease that
Correct.
increase on there. So
Less
if we
than
plan
the-
it this year, it'll benefit us next year. with
Yes,
this.
it would lessen the spike in that line item.
Okay. And if it's not used, goes in the surplus.
You know, to ease the spike, yeah.
And this budget also includes the 3 trucks and 2 tractors.
That's correct. We, at this point in time, have left them in the budget
Mhm.
after discussion at the workshop. We are trying to get back on track on a vehicle and equipment replacement. So that, we could look at those and delay. We have already delayed, you know, but eventually.
But that's
they need to
another
get-
expense for next year too then.
It could be, yeah.
Correct.
And we're already at a, never mind. You explained about the tax cap for next year, and we're already in a lot to think about for next year too.
Yes.
So under the revenue, Scott, can you explain, you said that the state aid came through, what were you referring to, that they finally made good, or?
Years ago, early 2000s, there was a court case, and they needed, the courts decided New York State wasn't funding education for a sound basic education appropriately. So there was a formula put in place called the Foundation Aid Formula. It's a very complicated thing. It takes into effect CPI, it takes into effect student count, multiple different factors. And there was supposed to be a phase-in to get current. It took them 15 years to get current. It wasn't supposed to be drag on this long. But when the recession hit in 2010-11 timeframe, we actually lost money as a school, like every other school, lost money. So that difference was even more because we were supposed to be getting more state aid, but they took away state aid because they didn't have the funds at that time.
So now we're getting 4.1 more in state aid?
Yes. Yes, at a one-time shot, basically.
Okay.
We're not getting 4.1 more. What's the increase? Do you know the percentage increase we got from last year offhand?
Off the top of my head,
That's
13.
not- no, that's-
that's the overall, all revenues.
Overall.
Okay.
sorry to put you on the spot, but I don't want the increase, because that's what John's asking.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
That it was, let's see, it's probably about 20% increase in state aid.
It was significant.
Any other questions?
No,
I mean, at the workshop, we kind of directed them to get to that 1 to 1.5 range. Looks like we're just over 1. Obviously, I don't think anyone wants an increase, but planning and with what we have going now in the economy, I think you guys did a great job getting it obviously down from that 3.89 that we were talking a week or so ago and getting it down. Where's everyone else at with it? Are we good?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Those 4 new, Jason was telling me before, those 4 new courses that only 2 of them are now going to be, is not new hires. It's just a reassignment of other teachers.
Yeah, so those 4 courses that we have slated for you to approve here tonight, and first one, not all of them are even filled.
Right.
And
2 of them, I think they said.
I think, yeah, and then the second piece is that those aren't new positions either.
Right.
It would just be like the textbooks or stuff.
Well, they would be like, so
current
high
teacher
teacher,
would
yeah,
teach.
so like a current teacher could, like, okay, pick up, like, Jeff Tress is looking at doing the Fright Fiction, so he just would add that to his course load.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Scott. Okay, now reports.
My actions,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is you. Now, superintendent's report.
Okay, just want a
Mr.
couple,
Smith.
thank you, John. A couple of comments, I want to just kind of echo what Paul and his team said, echo my congrats to the cast and crew of Les Mis. It was a fantastic show, I know some of you came, and we actually had a group of students go to Leroy, I went as well, to see the Leroy show the following Friday. So it was a nice back and forth there. Also want to recognize our boys and girls indoor track team. I won in the sectional championships this past February. They also did very well in states and nationals. We had several top finishers. District-wide, you heard Mr. Hussein speak about this. We are looking at this teaching concept known as checking for understanding. That is the 3rd or 4th initiative that we are undergoing right now. We're going through this lesson plan concept, and district-wide, this has been reinforced this month. Last month, Dr. Corey and the leadership team has been involved in that as well. This past Friday, we had a wonderful ceremony here, our musicians of note. We had 5 BHS graduates. Actually they're all graduates. Gloria McLaughlin is a former BCSD teacher, music teacher, back in my day when I was here. She was inducted. Brian Isaac, a graduate who is in the music field. Mark Corbell, Belzy Case, one of our current teachers. Diana Dipson, a little bit Batavia history for you from 1927, 1929. She was a well-known violinist. Some of you may know the Dipson theaters that were around when we were children. That's her family. And Deanna Spiata was inducted as well. Thank you to Jane Haggett and her staff for making this such a nice night. We are hosting at the middle school a family night from 5 to 8, I think, going on this week on Tuesday. If you haven't had a chance, the art show at the Richmond Library by our students is fantastic. Molly, Trish, and I went down this past week and picked out some winners. Very difficult job. But the reception is Friday night. We're going to break it down by elementary and secondary. And it's really some fantastic artwork there at the library. March 13th, last Monday, we had our Superintendent's Conference Day. We had our 3rd series with Lavelle Brown on diversity, and then from there, each building engaged in some achievement data, looking at benchmark data. You heard Paul talk about benchmark data, and looking at reading programs and some curriculum work. And later on in the agenda, you're going to be asked to approve a settlement of about $36,000 from the famous vaping settlement, the Juul agreement. The goal is, once this is approved, to expand our vaping, our Vape University program that Mr. Kessler had spoken about. I also want to thank and recognize the Ferrara Law Firm. They were instrumental in helping us get this settlement to better our students. So look forward to that approval from you tonight as well. So any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, up next is our student ex officio, Ms. Julie Petrie. Julie is not able to be here this evening, so I will read what she has written. Last Thursday, John Kennedy had their teachers' night at McDonald's. Julie was fortunate enough to be working that night and got to see it firsthand. The teachers did a great job and were very engaging and fun to work with. It was a great experience for the workers, teachers, and students. Congratulations to our indoor track athletes who went to nationals. We had many PRs, including Ava Werda, Drew Stevens, and Fabian Vasquez. There were also several kids who came within a second of breaking school records. Congratulations to Ryan Dillon, Nicole Doringer, Jaden Boyce, and Nate Canali for being named All-American. Congratulations to both the girls and boys indoor track teams for winning sectionals. Congratulations to Cooper Fix and Matt Doringer for competing in states for swimming. The drama club put on a great show. There were nothing but kind comments as everyone was more than thrilled about the show and were praising it left and right. Our mock trial team had their first round of trial. They performed very well and are seated high going to the road to regionals. They must win 3 more trials in order to have a go at the regional title. Also, congratulations to Casper Stewart for taking third at 152 pounds in the New York State High School Wrestling Championships. All right, next up, consent groups. Need a motion to accept consent items E through L. Ms. Lindley, can I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Bowman? Everyone?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right, old business. BCSD Executive Summary of the 2020 Building Condition Survey 5-Year Plan. Could I please have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Mr. Regal, can I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Anderson? Take the vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Number 2, approval of the 2023-2024 budget. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Regal, could I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Benedict? Take a vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Number 3, property tax report card and real property tax exemption reports. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Ms. Bowman? Could I have a second?
Second.
Just for context, if I just make a quick comment, items 3 and 4 under old business were conditional upon you approving the budget, so that's why they're there, so.
Who do I have as the first? I had Bowman.
First was
Ms.
Landay,
Landay.
second was Bowman,
Okay.
sorry, my bad.
No, that's total. Let me fix that. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All set?
Number 4, revised 2023-2024 budget calendar. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Regal, could I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Benedict?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right, new business. Approve the National School Public Relations Association renewal. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Regal, could I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Anderson?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? What's that?
Number 2, resolution authorizing partial settlement of vaping litigation. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Ms. Bowman, could I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Benedict?
And all in favor? Any opposed? All set?
Number 3, resolution to establish a new capital improvements reserve fund. Could I have a motion, please? Mr. Roll, could I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Moore?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All set?
Number 4, approval of annual district election / voter registration. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Ms. Benedict first. Ms. Anderson would be a second.
And all in favor? Any opposed? All set?
Number 5, approval of the notice of public hearing, budget vote, and election. Could I have a motion? Ms. Bowman?
Bowman, okay.
Second? Mr. Roll?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All set.
Number 6, approval of the job description for Director of Educational Technology. Mr. Roll? Second?
Second.
Ms. Ledbetter?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All set?
Number 7, Batavia High School course proposals. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Roll?
Second.
Ms. Bowman?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All set?
All right, next up is discussion and/or other reports. Any board member have any comments or anything they would like to share with us at this time? No?
Well, just real quick, just wanted to thank Jason and Scott and the team for the hard work you guys did for the budget, putting everything together, answering the questions, taking the extra time to make sure we have a good understanding of it, and the rest of the board asking questions. You know, there's a lot to being a board member that, you know, being in a couple years, still a million things, still learning, and Allison, I know your experience does bring a lot to the table as well.
Thank you.
So.
This is a big book.
Yes, but I do appreciate the time you guys put in and answer our questions. It is appreciated.
Then the administration reports from the Curriculum and Operations Business Office are right here for everybody to look at also. So, anything else? If not, it's going to be a call to go into executive session to discuss the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease for real property. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Riegel, could I have a second? Mr. Roll?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And we will not be coming back.